Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of two autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support.
Hi, and welcome to episode 59, where we were talking about autistic people being too trusting.
I agree with you on that one. With all the little ones that I've worked with and adolescents and, right all the way up to adults, you guys can tell just about one white lie, and then that's it. It ends right there. And the rest of it, you've got no hope in hell. So kudos to you guys for being, upholding the honesty flag over there.
Yeah, it's amazing that being very honest is considered a disorder. How weird is that?
It's a good disorder to have.
I don't believe in using the word disorder, but that's a weird thing.
It is.
This is a thank you again to Jamie for suggesting this topic. And if anyone else has any topics that they would like us to talk about, then please give us a shout, comment, email, and please consider subscribing if you're enjoying the content. It really helps us out and is very much appreciated. I'd like to start by saying lying is a learned behavior. You learn to lie by watching others. It's a modeled behavior. You observe others avoiding consequences or achieving a desired outcome.
It is also known to be a developmental milestone to when your brain reaches a certain growth and you're able to do this. It's considered a milestone. So I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, how weird is that? That lying is considered to be the correct trajectory for the brain. It's weird.
Yep.
It's weird.
It is.
Especially when you're always telling kids honesty is the best policy, and then it isn't.
Yep.
You can see why this gets really confusing. Like, lying is not a natural response for me. And like, yeah, I think for lots of autistic people. And it's not that I can't learn to lie. I've learned to lie. I'm really bad at it. And I have to practice it. And even then, like, I don't have the energy or the capacity to remember who I lied to and what the lie was. And then, you can't talk about this with this person because you lied about that. I can't. No, it's going to fall apart. I can't do it. So I just don't do it.
I think it's the best avenue to take. But this is an extremely difficult skill to teach. It has to be taught explicitly. And there are far too many scenarios and situations to be able to teach them all because life, you can't teach how to live life every single moment. It's not. And to decipher for what is real and what is not, what is truth and all. It's very difficult.
Yeah. You mean being taught how to perceive when someone else is lying to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also very person specific, and it is based on your chronological development, and it's also based on your cognitive development. So there are many factors to take into place in order to teach certain skills in a certain way. But we can discuss and explore what works for 3, 4, 5s, 8, 9, and 10s, teenagers, and adults. So there are certain rules that we can say has to be across the board. Could you come up with a rule that you would say if you need to follow this rule regardless of what people say?
Because being honest is my default setting, it was really difficult to understand why everyone wasn't honest when I was younger. I had a terrible time trying to figure out why people lie. And understanding is really important for a lot of autistic people, to understand something. And because that made no sense to me, it's very dysregulating. And I would always just assume, and even now, I just assume someone's telling me the truth unless I have information already that contradicts the information that they're saying. So, yeah, you can see how that can be dangerous. So I think a hard and fast rule is whenever there is a safety issue involved, you never break safety rules. That is a hard and fast rule in my home. So even if someone was to say, hey, why don't you go do this? My kids would know that if that's a safety rule, you don't break it no matter who's asking you to do it.
Yeah. And safety rules are far more easier to teach explicitly, right? There's road safety rules, there's kitchen safety rules, they are far more easier to, and can be taught explicitly. So putting that as a foundational skill, no matter of your age and cognitive ability, you can implement that based on age and cognitive ability. So to me, that is a strategy that you can use across the board no matter what.
Yeah, like if little kids are goading other kids to climb to the top of the climbing tower or whatever and jump,
Yep.
you can teach that, hey, that you know that that's probably not safe. You shouldn't do that no matter who is asking you to do it. Sure. It's I spent a lot of time teaching Alex, who's my oldest, level 1, teaching him how to critically analyze information for validity. So it's easier when it's an object, right? Like we were grocery shopping and he suggested that I buy a particular cleaning product because it said on the packaging that it was the best. And I said, well, that's called marketing and it isn't necessarily true. And he's like, well, how can they print it on there if it isn't true? And I said, well, people are really clever at working around guidelines and bending rules in order to take your money. And even as I'm trying to explain it, it's difficult because I don't understand how they can get away with it either. It just seems so inherently wrong. And that you take moments like that to teach. The other example I had was like he wanted a toy one day because he had seen a commercial and it made that toy look really amazing. And it was in a clearance bin, and so I bought it explicitly to demonstrate that commercials lie. And it was this kind of craft type toy where it was like pipe cleaners, but they were coated in wax so that you could bend them and mold them and they would stay. And he was incredibly excited. He brought it home, he opened it up, he tried it out, and he was immediately disappointed. And he said, well, this is nothing like the commercial. And I was thinking to myself, I'm so sorry to take away your innocence and joy, but I have to teach you how to be safe so that you don't get exploited. And those kinds of concrete examples can help shift your mindset into asking, is this true, rather than just assuming it to be true. The problem comes and becomes much more difficult when it's human interaction.
It is, absolutely. And one of the strategies you can certainly teach in that is saying consistency. Look for the consistency, look for the pattern in people, right? Patterns don't lie and they are consistent. So ask them to look for the consistency between what they say and what they do. Because if those two do not align, then the pattern is off and the consistency is off, and it's fairly good at relying on. So one of the strategies is we look for consistency.
Yeah, I think that's a really good strategy. It becomes difficult in the moment to be able to analyze a situation because you have so much sensory input, emotional regulation, and self-regulation going on when you're having a human interaction that you might not be able to in that moment recognize patterns of behavior or recognize deceit, even if you've been taught to look for it beforehand. So really, it's really important to know that even in the moment, someone might not be able to access that information because there's too much else going on. Your processing capacity is already at max.
It There are, like we said, this is going to be person specific, it's going to be age specific, it's going to be cognitive ability specific. So I'm hoping that the strategies that I'm offering are going to be, your baseline and your fundamental strategies that you can start to implement and then slowly scaffold the learning to more complex situation scenarios based on emotional demands, physical demands, sensory demands. So I'm just talking about the foundations over here. Because when you do have a strong foundation, the better the scaffolding will be.
It's I might be able to analyze the situation after I'm no longer in it. But when I'm in it, I'm very vulnerable to it, even now. So
You,
it's a really good strategy to have a safe person to be able to bounce that off of after the fact.
yeah, vulnerability is going, the higher the vulnerability, the higher your protective factor has to be. So, and a safe person is going to be the key to all of it. A safe person and a safe environment in which you are allowed to be able to express yourself, you're able to completely unmask without any consequences. That's going to be also a fundamental building block for you.
I'm not great at understanding intent. I might be able to pick up on a person's emotions pretty quickly and know that something is wrong, but I won't know why they're feeling a specific way. I have to go away and think about it, and I can't think about it. It takes a lot of processing power to think about it. So when I'm all being bombarded and conversation is still flowing, I don't have time or capacity to think about it when it's all happening. I have to go away. And then sometimes I need to ask other people, what do you think was happening in this situation? So I can still get lied to in the moment and believe it. Like if I can prepare so much. So if say I'm going to buy a car. It's a great example of when people lie to you is when you're going to buy a car.
Oh, yeah.
So I can get very easily conned. So I need to prepare before I go because I already know that person's probably almost 100% likely to be lying to me at some point about some aspect of this. So I need to prepare before I go, and I need to have a reasonable idea of what the trade-in value is of my vehicle so that they can't push me into trading it in for less. So I can do all of that research and be armed with that information and tell myself before I go, this is the number you want. Do not settle for less. I also need to remind myself before I walk in to question what they are telling me. Assume that everything they are telling me is incorrect or a lie or somehow deceptive so that I am primed to be looking for that before I start the conversation. The other thing I need to do is be prepared to walk away and think about what they say. And if they say, oh, the offer's only good for right now, if you walk away, you won't get it, walk away. That's a surefire way to say, no, they're trying to get me to do something that maybe I shouldn't be doing. I need to walk away.
Yeah.
Be prepared to leave. And also have a person with me because salespeople talk constantly. They don't give you time to process. That's part of their strategy to get you to buy something. So I need someone to buffer for me because I can't process all of it.
So, one of the strategies to teaching intent, well, two, is experience, is what's going to give you a better understanding of intent. The other part of it is actually I put a show on, a show that is preferred by the particular age group that I'm teaching it to. And I would allow them to watch maybe a minute of a show without any volume. And I will ask them to then decipher what the body language was telling me, what the intent of their actions were, and ask, oh, like ask some questions. Why did you think that? What made you, you know, believe that this was the intent of it? So having that open discussion and telling them that no matter what they thought, all of it, there was no wrong answer. And then I go back and I play that same 1 minute with the audio to see if what they believed the intentions of the body were what the intentions of what they were verbalizing actually, you know, meant what they were showing them. So it's a good strategy to do.
Yeah, especially because in film or television, actions are usually exaggerated.
Yes, they are.
So it's easier to pick up on. It's generally a little less subtle. Um, you can't predict all of the scenarios that you or your autistic child are going to encounter, and you do the best that you can, and take the opportunity when it arises to explain how someone was being mean or deceptive, because when you're young you don't always know that someone's being mean to you, especially if other people are laughing. You think something's funny. So because you don't always catch tone or sarcasm when you're young, but those things can be taught. Like I spent an entire summer working on sarcasm, idioms, and puns with Alex.
And it's taking, and that was one of my other strategies, is actually building it into a schedule. So you took learning all of that and you built it into your schedule for the summer. So taking time and building that into your schedule and exposing them to that is also a great way of learning what is truth and a person being truthful or not. So putting that into a strategy and taking the time. And I know teachable moments can sometimes come up at the most inopportune times, but you're going to have to press the pause button because you may not get another opportunity to learn a certain skill or a situation. So please take a moment for those teachable moments and discover it together.
I actually didn't even think about teaching sarcasm because I don't remember when I learned that. I don't remember how I learned that. But I remember at that time kids were little, and I I had read an article that said never use sarcasm with your autistic child. They don't understand it. And I thought, don't you tell me what to do, because I have a little bit of a demand avoidance. And so I spent an entire summer going, I bet he could learn that. I mean, I didn't know I was also autistic at the time, but I thought, I don't see why he can't learn that. So I did. I spent a summer teaching it to him. And let me tell you, his ability to pick up on sarcasm and use sarcasm and puns and idioms and all of the things, he has a
Is
pretty great
ingenious.
sense of humor,
Yep,
and
he is
his
ingenious
pattern
that way.
recognition and ability to put things together is awesome. But he needed it, like you said, he needed it explicitly taught. And sarcasm is everywhere. It's
It
in
is.
all the children's shows. It is something you need to learn.
And I know that, you know, teaching this, people are going to go, that's absurd. But it's a skill that you don't, needs to be acquired by, neurodivergent people. So, so please take the opportunity to do that.
And just know that I still don't always pick up on sarcasm. If it is a new person and they have no affect, they have nothing going on to indicate to me that it is sarcasm, I'm going to miss it. So
Yep.
some of these things can be taught and still be missed. It's okay. That's part of life, that you're never going to be able to always get these things correct 100% of the time.
No, it is trial and error. And you've got to make sure that when you are teaching things explicitly or your child comes back to you, it, they need to feel safe. They need to feel safe that no matter what they say, how they say it, why they say it, and completely unmask when they are saying it is going to be okay. There's never going to be a time when it's not okay by expressing themselves. And allow them to just get it out of their system so that they can start to slowly become regulated from a dysregulated state before jumping in and telling them what was wrong with the situation and what was right. Don't give them the answers, discover the answers with them, right? Help them do that critical thinking on their own because that's going to be a far more effective learning pattern than giving them the answer. Because then that critical thinking then can be carried into different other aspects of life, which is going to be phenomenal for scaffolding learning.
I think it needs to be explicitly explained And then as part of that growth, I think that's what you're saying, as part of that growth, then get them to try to develop those critical thinking skills, because you can't come out the gate saying, well, what do you think happened? Because you don't know. I don't know. And I'm just going to get upset and frustrated because seems to be something that I should know that I don't know.
And I think that's where the affirming language of saying, it's okay if you don't know.
Yeah.
What is it that you don't know? Don't assume they don't know anything, because that's being condescending. They do know. They do know there's something about it that was wrong, and they just need the starting phase, right? So just fill in the gaps for them, but don't assume that they don't know anything. But don't jump in when they're in an elevated state. Allow them to be in a regulated state where you can engage in that conversation when it's meaningful and when it's going to be retained. When they're like bah, 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 and trying to teach that, that's not a time where you teach. That's not a teachable moment.
I think
So,
you're right for like 99% of the time. And I think the only caveat I might have to that is if I'm really dysregulated because I don't understand a why did something happen? I'm only going to come down once I understand why. So that's not a time to try to wait for me to come down in order to get me to critically think of the why. If I understood the why, I'd have come up with it by myself. I need someone to tell me the why so that I can de escalate.
but if
It's a
I'm also going to
nuance.
look for your body language, right? If I know that you're present and that I'm able to engage with you, but if you're red in the face and your fists are clenched and you're pacing, I'm going to give you a couple of moments to be able to hear what I'm saying, right? I'm not going to ask you to stop. I'm not going to ask you to say, look at me. I'm just going to talk very calmly, very quietly, and be direct. I'm not going to be assuming this and assuming. I'm just going to be very direct, keeping the language simple and to the point. That's it.
So I'm going to give an example here because intent is a hard concept.
Mm-hmm.
When Alex was about 4, we were at the playground and there was a little boy there who was running around. He was with his mom, and he was he had some behavioral stuff going on. I don't know what it was. I don't know. But Alex was playing with him, and this kid took some sand and threw it in Alex's face. And it got into his eyes, and he was crying, and he was very upset. And he came to me, and he is completely dysregulated. He's crying, and he's looking at me, and he's saying, I don't understand, Mom. I don't understand. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? That was a time for me to say, why? Even though he's dysregulated, he's crying, all of these things are happening. In order for him to calm down, I needed to explain why that happened. Otherwise, he's not coming down. And what I said to him was, I don't know why anyone would do that, Alex. That's mean, and it's not okay. Sometimes people are just jerks. Sometimes they just do mean things, and we're never going to know why exactly they do that. And this kid's mom could hear me, and she's looking, and she was one of those parents who was just like, oh, whatever the kid's name was, oh, come back, you shouldn't do that. And she had no control really over the situation. And she looked at me and she said, well, boys will be boys. And I thought, you're the problem. That's exactly what's happening right now. You are the problem. So that is a situation where even though he's elevated, and I'm taking care of those needs, I'm trying to help him flush out his eyes and that sort of thing. And crying is actually really great for getting dirt out of your eyes.
Getting up.
So, but he needed me to be calm. He needed me to be concise. And it's okay that I don't have an answer as long as I explain to him sometimes people are mean.
Yep. Yeah, and it's okay to say I don't have that answer yet.
And the same thing for when people are being deceptive. Understanding why would they lie to me about that? I don't know. I don't know why people lie all the time. We might never know why people lie all the time. Sometimes they lie to get out of trouble. Sometimes they lie to get what they want. And it made me come across the words jealousy and envy. People are often very deceptive when they're jealous or envious. And although I can read the definitions of those emotions, I've never felt those emotions. So it doesn't actually make sense to me.
There's so much explicit teaching that needs to be done, and it needs to be done in small increments and presenting real life situations through role playing. There are also games that you can do, and it's scenario games, which you can make a lot of fun, and there's always age appropriate ones.
Do we have a list of those that I can put in the description?
I will definitely look them up and let you know.
Because I think that
We
would
can
be a
certainly
helpful
put
tool.
those in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be games that are created by somebody else. You can create those games yourselves based on your own family dynamics, based on your child's own preferences. So because you want that engagement piece, right? If you know that they are, they like superheroes, or you can incorporate that into your game to make it more engaging for them. So you can certainly do all of that. And your protective factors have to increase when the cognitive ability of your child decreases. That becomes, to me, an area where it is very difficult. When there is limited cognitive abilities of maybe age 2 or 3, those are things where you need to have the hard, fast rules of things that are dangerous. You almost have to baby proof the situations into them and make sure that the vulnerability aspect is that they're not left with vulnerable people. So,
Yeah, like you look at Peter's is my youngest son. He's level 3. He's non-speaking. He's almost 18. He's
he's a
vulnerable.
man.
Well,
He's a man. He's a big, big man, but
but
he
he's
could be
never
taken
going
advantage
to.
of.
Yeah, he doesn't have the cognitive ability to recognize when someone's lying to him.
Yep. So,
So
but
it's
he does have the cognitive ability to know what's safe and what isn't, right? So,
yeah.
we were able to you were able to teach those fundamental skills, which is great. And did a good job with him.
Oh,
So,
hard and fast rule: we don't break safety rules.
yep,
Never.
there you go.
Yeah.
Do you have any other suggestions?
No, this is really hard. This is a really hard topic because I'm still trusting. I still find myself believing people when I shouldn't believe people. And
I think
like you said, it's so specific to each situation that um, the best I can do is surround myself with people who I know are not going to lie to me.
yeah, it is. It's a difficult. I mean, and I think when you're fundamentally a good person, it makes it really difficult. Whether you're neurotypical and neurodivergent, it makes it difficult. But when you add the inability to lie or to find out the subtleties in what's a white lie and what isn't, it makes it a lot more difficult. So it's a slow and steady progress, and it is something that you never stop learning about. And I hope that some of the fundamental tools that we've given you are a starting point in which you can build that.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to keep your kids perfectly safe all of the time. They are going to get hurt. That's just going to
But
be part of learning.
let's try and limit the amount of hurt and the level
I mean,
of the hurt.
emotionally hurt,
Yeah.
to
But
be
even too,
specific. But
yeah.
yeah,
So even with that, the level of that, right? Try and narrow
I
it
think
down the
that's
best
a
we
human
can.
experience that everybody goes through.
Yeah, but I don't like it.
It's not great, but it is part of life and learning. And I know with autistic people, we're just a lot more susceptible to it.
Yeah. That's sad, isn't it? So, but Thank you once again to Jamie for reaching out and for asking us to talk about this subject. Um, and until the next time, have a great day.
And we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.